Imagine this. In a single moment, everything you currently take meaning and purpose in becomes completely hollow. You wake up tomorrow to find your work unfulfilling, your romantic partner repulsive, and worst of all, you realize you've been fooling yourself your entire life. You discover that you are a crueler, more vicious person than you ever thought possible. This isn't a horror movie. It's what an existential crisis feels like, and it is the exact premise of philosophy's most terrifying and perhaps most misunderstood novel. Welcome back. Today, we are diving into the dark, foggy canals of Amsterdam to dissect Albert Camus' final published novel, The Fall. If you've spent any time exploring philosophy, you know that finding meaning in a universe that simply doesn't care about you is incredibly difficult. But Camus warns us of something even more dangerous than a meaningless universe. What if the biggest obstacle to finding lasting meaning in your life is you? What if you are just playing a psychological game of self-deception to avoid taking responsibility for your own actions? In this video, we are going to break down the story of a man who seemingly had it all, lost his mind, and devised a sinister psychological trap that you might be falling into right now. We will explore the illusion of goodness, the crushing weight of judgment, and a concept so unsettling it might permanently change how you view your own morality. Our story begins in a seedy, dimly lit bar in Amsterdam's infamous red light district, a place called Mexico City. Here, we meet our narrator, Jean-Baptiste Clamence. Clamence spends his days drinking gin and talking to strangers, and he corners you, the listener, to tell you his life story. Clamence used to live an idyllic life in Paris. He was a highly successful trial lawyer. But he wasn't just any lawyer. He purposely took on charitable cases, defending widows, orphans, and the poor without charging them a dime. Outside the courtroom, he was the picture of perfect morality. He offered up his seat on the bus. He gave directions to lost tourists. He helped blind people cross the street. To anyone watching, he was God's gift to humanity, a genuinely kind, benevolent, and exceptional person. He lived in total existential bliss, completely free of guilt or shame. But it was all a complete fraud. Clamence eventually confesses that he didn't do these things out of a genuine desire to help people. He did them purely for his own reputational gain and vanity. He reveals a devastating detail. After helping a blind man cross the street, he used to tip his hat to him. Why tip your hat to a man who literally cannot see it? Because, as Clamence admits, it was a performance. He was taking a self-congratulatory bow for the audience watching him. He didn't care about his morals. He only cared about feeling superior to everyone else around him. He used his romantic partners in the exact same way. He was a womanizer who felt a perverse sense of ownership over women. He would manipulate them into declaring their undying love for him, and the exact moment they did, he would lose interest. They weren't people to him. They were just existential props used to support his grand identity. So, how does a man with an ego this massive end up drinking gin in a dive bar below sea level? The title of the book, The Fall, is a direct reference to the biblical fall of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. Clamence falls from his delusional, high-rise Parisian innocence down into the foggy, hellish canals of Amsterdam. This fall is triggered by 3 specific events that completely shatter his fragile self-image. The first is a simple altercation. One day, a motorcyclist stalls in front of him, an argument breaks out, and Clamence gets sucker-punched in front of a crowd. He falls to the ground. For a man who believed he was brave, physically powerful, and superior, this public humiliation forces him to confront his own utter impotence. But the second event is the one that destroys him permanently. One night, Clamence is walking alone across a bridge over the River Seine. He passes a young, slim woman dressed in black, leaning over the railing. He ignores a strange feeling and keeps walking. A moment later, he hears a splash. Then he hears screams heading downstream. What does the great noble defender of the weak do? Does he dive in to save her? No, he stands there, passive and silent. He does absolutely nothing. He doesn't even tell anyone or read the newspapers the next day because he is too afraid to face what he has done. In that moment, the illusion of his moral perfection is shattered. He is forced to realize he is a coward. The third event happens years later. Clamence is walking across another bridge, feeling particularly triumphant, when he hears a laugh behind him in the darkness. He turns around, but no one is there. This phantom laugh represents the omnipresent judgment of society. For the first time in his life, Clamence feels the crushing weight of the world judging him, seeing through his hypocrisy and laughing at his fake virtue. Now, you might be thinking, well, I wouldn't do that. If I heard someone jump into a freezing river, I'd be the hero. I'd dive in. But Camus wants us to pause right there. From the safety and comfort of our modern lives, it is incredibly easy to sit in our privileged bubbles and fantasize about the brave things we would do in hypothetical scenarios. People love to say, if I lived in the 1930s, I would have stood up to dictators. But the truth is, terrible things happen around us every day. And very rarely do we actually risk our own safety to correct them. We are all suffering from what Camus calls a modern amnesia. This modern amnesia is a defense mechanism. We conveniently forget about all the mistakes we make so we can easily move on with our lives. Clamence realizes that human interaction is steeped in dishonesty. We point the finger and judge others as an attempt to divert attention away from our own flaws. As Clamence brutally puts it, we spit on others so they cannot spit on us first. Even our friendships are built on this hypocrisy. Have you ever complained to a friend about a stranger who wronged you, and your friend immediately agreed with you, validating your anger even though they weren't there? According to Clamence's dark philosophy, we don't choose friends for mutual inspiration or to be told we are wrong. We choose friends for sympathy. We want our own personal echo chamber to reinforce our biases and tell us we are innocent. Once Clamence realizes that his life is a sham, he spirals. He tries drinking himself into a stupor to dull his self-consciousness. He tries meaningless, romantic flings. He even tries to sabotage his own character, acting like an inflammatory troll in public, hoping that if people judge his fake character, they won't be judging the real him. But none of it works. The mocking laughter only gets louder. So, Clamence concocts a brilliant, yet deeply sinister solution to escape judgment forever. He creates a new profession for himself, the Judge-Penitent. The strategy is a twisted psychological game. First, Clamence plays the penitent. He corners strangers in bars and brutally confesses all of his worst sins, his vanity, and his cowardice. He positions himself as the absolute scum of the earth, the lowest rung on the ladder of society. Why? Because if he judges himself first and beats you to the punch, it makes it impossible for you to criticize him. You can't hurt him if he has already agreed that he is human garbage. But here is where the trap snaps shut. Once he has thoroughly disgusted you with his own flaws, he seamlessly pivots to becoming the judge. He holds up his own miserable life like a mirror and forces you to look at your own reflection. By exposing his own deep hypocrisy, he subtly implies that you are exactly like him. He strips away your illusion of moral superiority, leaving you feeling depressed and guilty about your own place in the world. Through this toxic public confession, Clamence regains his power. By dragging everyone else down into the mud with him, he once again feels a sense of superiority over the rest of humanity. At the core of Clamence's misery is a terrifying realization about the absurd universe. In Camus' philosophy, the absurd is the gap that opens when we seek inherent meaning in a universe that has none. Clamence desperately wants his old innocence back. He wants a god or a savior to wipe away his sins and absolve him of guilt. But because he doesn't believe in God, there is no one around to forgive him. He is left alone with his unalterable history and profound character flaws. Because he is morally weak, the weight of total freedom and responsibility is too much for him to bear. He famously declares that there is innocence in slavery. Think about that for a second. Innocence in slavery. Clamence argues that if you surrender to an authoritarian master or a strict dogma, you no longer have to make your own moral choices. You become a foot soldier, carrying out someone else's vision. If you do something wrong, the master is to blame, not you. You retreat into intellectual cowardice just to escape the dreadful weight of having to answer for your own life. And this is the ultimate genius of Albert Camus' writing. The Fall is not a guidebook for how to live. Jean-Baptiste Clamence is not a hero of absurdist philosophy. He is a warning. He is the poster child for the hypocrisy of modern society. Camus is holding up a mirror to us. Are we putting on a performance to feel superior? Are we indulging in modern amnesia to forget our own flaws while ruthlessly judging others on the internet? Are we adopting strict, extreme ideologies just so we don't have to face the terrifying freedom of thinking for ourselves? Clamence discovered that life lacks inherent meaning, but instead of bravely moving past it, he let it turn him cynical, miserable, and cruel. Camus presents us with a profound choice. We cannot unsee the absurdity of the world. We cannot unlearn the fact that human nature is deeply flawed and often steeped in hypocrisy. But we don't have to end up in a dive bar, projecting our misery onto everyone else. Camus believed that in a universe without absolute certainty, you have two choices in how you deal with the judgments of the world. You can be, quote, happy and judged, or absolved and wretched. You can embrace the radical freedom of a godless world, lock eyes with the void, and learn to laugh with the absurd rather than letting it mock you. Don't trade your integrity for a few sweet moments of denial. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown valuable, like and subscribe for more valuable books.